everyone. This is Electric Gold. We are Nashville SC supporters doing a podcast because why not? What else have we got going on?
Yeah.
Here we are.
Exactly.
I'm Ryan. I'm here with my friends Evan and John, and we're ready to break down the past week of Nashville SC soccer, as well as whatever else comes up. How are you guys doing this evening?
Fantastic, Ryan. How about you?
I'm doing pretty swell. Evan, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great.
Wonderful. I'm glad to have you guys here with me to talk about the team. We played 2 games this past week. We played midweek. We played yesterday. We're recording this on Sunday night. There's a lot to unpack and talk about. It's been an eventful week. But before we get to all of that, let's make sure and talk about what beers we're drinking this evening while we record. So start with you, John. What are you drinking this evening?
Tonight, I am drinking the Bear Walker from the Jackalope Brewing Company here in Nashville, Tennessee. They are awesome brewery. They make fantastic beer, and they are cooperating with us in one clear way that I will not mention until the end of the show.
Ooh. A little teaser.
You have to listen to the whole show to find out. But yeah,
Man.
The Bear Walker, it's got kind of a maple taste. It's an amazing beer. I haven't tasted anything like this. And I just wanted to share something from the Jackalope people, their website. From Native American folklore, a bear walker is a sorcerer who can shapeshift into a bear, which is like a werebear, if you will.
Wow, a werebear, not a Care Bear.
Nope, not a Care Bear.
A werebear.
Is a person who changes into a bear?
It says a sorcerer.
A sorcerer.
So I'm guessing that's a person that can change into a werewolf/bear.
A werebear. Sounds awesome.
I did not fact check this, by the way, so I'm not sure which Native American prophecy this is a part of. But yeah, this is from their website.
And how does that make the beer taste?
Amazing. Amazing. It's the best beer ever.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's high praise. How about yourself, Evan? What are you drinking this evening?
Well, I'm drinking the Celebration IPA from Chico, California's Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. Are you guys familiar with Chico, California? I'm not, but
Nope.
I have recently learned that they have one of the largest and best city parks in the nation. I think it's called Bidwell Park, if that rings a bell. It's nearly 4,000 acres and is 17% of the entire size of the city. Isn't that wild?
It's
Wow.
wild. I want to go to there.
We should go, yeah. But I'm drinking the Celebration IPA because Ryan misspoke. We did not play 2 games this week. We played 1 and beat Cincinnati, and I'm celebrating that one. We did not play a second game last night. So anyway, it's a great beer, just a really good classic IPA. But if you will indulge me one more moment, I would also like to give a shout out to the Tenfold Brewery in Donaldson where we pre-gamed yesterday. I did not know this place existed until yesterday, and I was so impressed. The beer was great. The hot honey pizza was as good as I've ever had, and you know how I feel about hot honey pizza. And the space was excellent. It was large. It was well decked out, and they were even showing the U.S. women's national team game on multiple televisions. So I was just so impressed. So I wanted to recommend that everybody go check out Tenfold.
Donaldson has a lot of really neat secrets tucked away. Not a lot of people in town come out to Donaldson. They stay inside the loop downtown, East Nashville. They get out to the Gulch and on further south part of town. I'm telling you, Donaldson's got some stuff going on. They got some things cooking, some things happening, and Tenfold is one of them. Excellent place. You can bring your dog. A few people had their dogs there with them. They've got the garage doors they can throw open when the weather's nice. It's a great place to hang out and have some really good beers. Well, I'm also joining you, Evan, by having an IPA. The one I'm having is Hippies and Cowboys from Tennessee Brew Works. If you live in Tennessee, chances are you have friends that are hippies, and you probably have some friends that are cowboys. And so this IPA is an ode to them, a tropical and citrus sort of combination. It's really light, crisp finish. It tastes great. 6% alcohol. Hippies and Cowboys. Highly recommend it.
I love it. Love that beer.
All right, guys. Well, here's to you. Let's get this podcast started. Cheers.
Cheers,
boys.
Let's kick things off with a quick week in review. After After a lackluster draw versus Montreal last weekend, Nashville SC traveled to the Midwest to take on their most hated rival, FC Cincinnati, in a midweek matchup of teams heading in opposite directions. While Nashville has struggled to gain any sort of momentum this season and was toiling below the playoff line, Cincinnati was riding a 7-game win streak that positioned them near the top of the Eastern Conference in a virtual tie with Inter Miami. Interim coach Roomba Munthali made some surprising changes to the Nashville SC lineup for this game, choosing Drew Yearwood and Brian Anunga as starters in the midfield over Anibal Godoy and Sean Davis. More surprising was the insertion of Teal Bunbury as the starting striker, leaving designated player Sam Surridge on the bench. The results on the pitch were impressive. Nashville played a complete game, tough on defense and crafty on offense. For the first time in maybe over a year, Hany Mukhtar had a complete game of domination where he had plenty of space to work and picked apart the Cincinnati defense. In the 25th minute, Mukhtar's corner kick dropped in front of the Cincy goal as Walker Zimmerman drew multiple defenders, leaving Jack Mayer free to turn an awkward low header into a goal past the keeper DeAndre Liedlin. Shortly after that, Mukhtar magic was on full display. Drew Yearwood served up a beautiful pass to Mukhtar in the middle of the field, and as 4 different defenders pursued him, Mukhtar put on a dazzling array of moves to shake free and then found a wide open Jacob Schaffelberg charging on the left side. Schaff had a clear shot at the goal and converted, putting NSC up 2-0, a lead that Nashville carried into halftime. In the second half, Cincinnati won the possession battle and had a number of opportunities to score, but the Nashville defense was unbreakable, and goalkeeper Joe Willis made a number of impressive stops and deflections to secure the victory and a well-deserved clean sheet. With the win, Nashville scored their first win on the road this season, and they moved themselves just above the playoff line into 9th place in the East with a record of 4 wins, 4 losses, and 7 draws. Based on their performances in the Cincinnati game, Hany Mukhtar and Jack Mayer were both named to the MLS Team of Match Day 17 on Thursday. Mukhtar controlled the match in the middle of the field and served up assists on both Nashville goals, while Mayer scored one of those goals in his first since September 2023. Mayer was also an important contributor on the defensive front throughout the second half of the game, helping to ensure the NSC victory against a tough opponent on the road. Nashville was riding the good vibes back home this weekend for a matchup against the league worst New England Revolution, who have struggled all season and entered the game with only 2 wins and none of them on the road. The record and goal differential of -17 were both last in the league, and New England was on pace for one of the worst seasons in MLS history. Meanwhile, Nashville was quietly putting together a mid-season resurgence of sorts, having only lost once in their last 7 games, and also tying for the least goals allowed in the league during that stretch. And yet, despite all the stats, a game still had to be played. Coach Munthali opted to return back to a more familiar lineup for the game, with Surridge starting in the striker role and Godoy, Davis, and Tyler Boyd back in the starting lineup as well. From the start, Nashville seemed to win the possession battle and the shot opportunities, but the same spirit that won them the Cincinnati game was certainly missing. And New England capitalized in the 18th minute when Carlos Gil weaved through a lackluster Nashville defense and notched his 5th goal of the season. Throughout the first half, Nashville struggled to put together any significant offensive threats to New England's defense, and the 1-0 lead held at halftime. Early in the second half, New England caught Nashville sleeping once again. NSC was pressing high, and New England's counterattack quickly flipped to field before Nashville could retreat. Again, Nashville's defense did not pressure well, and forward Esmir Bajratarevic lasered his shot from the right side past Joe Willis to put the Revs up 2-0. Nashville had their chances for a comeback as they took 26 shots total in the game to just 8 for New England. In the 53rd minute, Shaq Moore had a close-range shot deflected by the hand of defender Xavier Arriaga. A penalty kick for the handball was taken by Hany Mukhtar, but it was blocked, and Nashville remained scoreless. Nashville earned another penalty kick in the 78th minute when Walker Zimmerman was chopped down while jumping in the air by his former teammate Dave Romney. This time, Mukhtar converted the penalty to cut the New England lead in half, but that was all the offense that Nashville could muster, and the game ended with the boys in gold falling at home 2-1. Nashville now sits in 9th place in the East with a record of 4 wins, 5 losses, and 7 draws, and a goal differential of -2. New England remains in last place in the East, now with 3 wins, 10 losses, and 1 draw, and a goal differential of -16. So there you go, guys. A tale of two different games, two different outcomes. We had the very exciting positive outcome in Cincinnati, the very disappointing loss here in Nashville. Any initial thoughts from either of you? We'll start with you, Evan. Do you have any thoughts just off the top of your head in general?
Off the top of my head, it's just kind of a quintessential NSC week. We played up to the opponent in Cincinnati and played them off the field. It was one of the best performances we've had in the last year and a half. And then, just as I feared going into the New England match, such a trap. Coming off of a great performance and a big win and playing away, by the way, and coming back home against a team far inferior. It should have been a give me, but we play down. We tend to play down to our opponents and have for a long time. And so, yeah, that is my initial thought, is that it unfortunately was two more examples of our tendency, which is to get up, get hyped, play very well against a great opponent, then do the exact opposite against a team we obviously should have beat.
John, it seems like Nashville's got all of the capability to play at the top level of this league, but they just don't do it consistently, right?
I can't explain it. I think after Wednesday, the majority of the NSC fandom was all on board. Like, all right, we're back. This was the Nashville we knew. And man, just like that Saturday night, it evaporated. All that optimism is right down the tube, and we're right back where we were. I don't know, man. It's so depressing as fans to see a team play at its capacity, then a few changes in the lineup. Going back to what most people would say as our starting lineup on Saturday, and they did not play that way. They did not play like they were first stringers. They did not play as well as the so-called backups did on Wednesday. It's a bummer.
You know, we're at the halfway point now of this season. Obviously, we've been fairly disappointed, I'd say, with the performances so far, though there have been certainly some moments where we've gotten really excited and where we should be excited. We have had some standout performances along the way. Cincinnati might have been the best one of them all. But the unfortunate part is that in May, we had an opportunity. We were playing a lot of lower level teams that we should have had more success against. Just to look back, we played Miami at the end of April 20th, but then starting with the San Jose game, April 27th. Yeah. San Jose near the bottom of the Western Conference. We tied them. We beat Montreal 4-1. We lost to Charlotte. We beat Toronto, which is a playoff team, a top 5 team. We tied Atlanta, who is out of the playoffs right now. We tied Montreal, who is below us in the standings right now. We beat Cincinnati, who's second in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
And then we lose to New England, who's last. So all of the lower tier teams we performed worse against. To your point, Evan, we played down to that competition, but we can also play up to the competition as well.
Yeah, it is confounding because on the one hand, you know, they're human beings, right? And we would probably do the same thing, yeah? Get up for a big game, for a big rival, backs against the wall, coming in as an underdog and really get up for it. And then, of course, the opposite. But on the other hand, they are professionals. This is what they do day in and day out. You would hope that they could learn from that trend, that reputation for playing down, and somehow figure out a way to psych themselves up for an inferior opponent, but we just can't do it.
It seems to be a failure we see over and over again this season. Before we get into the segments of the podcast, just really quick, let's talk about the coaching situation, because it does seem like maybe there's some rumors and rumblings that we're getting close to naming a head coach. They must have somebody in mind at this point. Am I right, John?
That's what all indicators are pointing towards. I wish I had a name, because I kept seeing people say that the coach was at game last night. Have y'all seen that?
No, enlighten us.
People were saying that he was at the game last night, but I don't know who it is. I can't get anybody to freaking tell me. Come on, y'all. Just let me know so that I can say it on our podcast and seem like a genius here. Tony Husband, the commentator for Apple TV, was our former commentator before Apple took the rights. He's one of the best commentators in MLS, certainly for Apple TV. And he kept kind of hinting that it was coming soon. He kept hinting that the coach was coming soon. The naming of the coach was coming really quick. But I don't know who it is, man. I wish I did. It would make a far better podcast if we did.
I'm looking right now just to see if there's any late breaking announcements, but there's not yet.
Know, right?
So
yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to have to continue to wait and see. But it is interesting to think that he might have been there watching the shit show that was the New England game.
What a game to watch.
Yeah, right. I hope he still wants to be the coach after seeing that.
Those 11 may not ever see the field.
All right. Well, we'll continue to wait and see on that. But for now, let's get into Oh, hell yeah. Okay, guys, this is your opportunity to tell you what's the best thing that you saw this week. And we will start with you, John. What's your all hell yeah moment?
Well, yeah, this is the easiest hell yeah versus hell no moment. Wednesday night, it was a blast from the past. I felt like it was 2021 all over again. Hany Mukhtar doing his high stepping, dominating, setting up everything. We scored off a set piece. We had that bend but don't break defense. It was just 2021. I almost expected CJ Sapong and Randall Leal to jump off the bench. I felt like getting prepared to watch the Tokyo Olympics. I felt like I was excited to watch Squid Game at the Friends reunion special.
I'm sure you were really watching that.
I felt like I was going to start listening to Lil Nas X.
Sure.
I felt like as disappointed the Alec Baldwin shooting news was right around the corner.
It really took you back, didn't it?
Boy, I tell you what, he dwelled on that, didn't he?
I felt like celebrating the Milwaukee Bucks NBA championship with that NSC co-owner Giannis Antetokounmpo. But no, it was old times, man. It was old Nashville SC. It was perfect. It was heaven for one night. I rode on that cloud all the way up until yesterday. And I said, hell yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to just add to the nostalgia was the old school NSC players like Teal Bunbury, Brian Anunga contributing rather than, some of the folks that we've picked up in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it was glorious.
Evan, what was your oh hell yeah moment?
Yeah, definitely from Wednesday night. Specifically, though, you probably think I'm going to say maybe Shaft's goal where he went near post and fit that shot so neatly in there, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that the best thing I saw this week was Brett Coleman's slide tackles from Wednesday night.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Brent Coleman's slide tackles from Wednesday night. I don't know if you remember this, but he had maybe like 2, 3, at least, just brilliant, desperate almost slide tackles, perfectly timed, all ball that really disrupted Cincinnati's offense and some really threatening runs at our goal. And it was a masterclass in tackling from Mr. Coleman, and I was just like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
He did a great job. That whole defensive line was terrific on Wednesday night. Jack Mayer played well. Of course, Zimmerman was terrific leading that whole group. And Coleman, who he was signed as intended to be a deep bench in case of emergency break glass kind of defender, but he's played significant minutes. And be honest, he and Bauer both, when they've come in, they've performed admirably. So I can see why you selected him for your all hell yeah moment. Well, let's turn the page then and talk about what's the worst thing you saw this week. Oh, hell no. And we'll stick with you, Evan. What's your oh hell no moment?
Well, it almost was Rev's player Dylan Barrero out there playing a soccer match in his underwear, but Really, what it was the team letting our interim coach down. I'm so impressed with Roomba and was really hoping for this Cinderella story where he was going to go on this streak and give us at least one episode out of our forthcoming NSC documentary that John, I'm sure, started lining up producers and directors this week. Gosh, it was such a letdown for them to let us all down, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, I just couldn't believe that they squandered another opportunity. I thought, oh, hell no.
Did you guys get the sense that some players were maybe, I don't know, approaching the game in a disinterested manner? It just didn't seem like they approached it with the same sort of energy and tenacity that they did Wednesday night, right?
Well, yes, absolutely. That is the case. I don't know that I would say that they were any more disinterested than in a lot of other matches, especially over the last month or so. But yeah, relative to the Cincinnati match, yes, definitely.
Okay, John, what's your all hell no moment?
My all hell no moment is definitely just another loss at home. I cannot put into words how important it is to take care of your home business in this league.
Especially against a lesser opponent, right?
Exactly. This league is kind of built for parity. We have mentioned it before. So if you want to make the playoffs, you need to win at home. And when you can manage a draw away, that's a good result. And so, guys, I've got some statistics for you.
Oh, boy.
I did some deep diving. All right. So in the table right now, I think we're 9th in the East. Is that correct?
That's right.
But we've played a whole lot more home games than a lot of teams have. The MLS schedule is for the southern teams in the United States. We typically play more home games at the start of the year because of the weather. And the teams up north typically play more road games at the start of the year. So stick with me. Here's some stats. I did kind of a par thing, kind of like golf. So if you take 0 points for winning at home, 0 points for losing away, -3 points if you lose at home, -2 points if you draw at home, +3 points if you win away, +1 point if you draw away. Y'all got me?
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you do that, Nashville SC is at -12 for the season because of all the home points that we have dropped. Even winning away at Cincinnati Wednesday was neutralized right away by losing at home against New England last night. Guess where that puts us in the Eastern table if you do this for all the teams?
Surely dead last.
If we're factoring in basically the advantages that you should have with home field advantage,
Yes.
I would say, Evan, you're probably right. I think it probably puts us dead last in the conference.
Y'all are real close. We're 14th out of 15.
New England.
Oh, no.
Oh.
New England is ahead of us because of last night.
Oh.
Chicago Fire is the only one below us.
They still have a soccer team?
I know, right?
They're still playing.
And they're barely trying at all. But yeah, they're -15. The top of the table in the East would actually be, believe it or not, Cincinnati, even after dropping 3 points against us Wednesday. Of course, this is not taking into effect Sunday's games, but I haven't kept track of today's games at all. But yeah, Cincinnati and Red Bulls were actually second. You cannot drop points at home in this league and expect to get anywhere. I think 2/3 of our games the rest of the way are away games. And boy, we better play like we did Wednesday against Cincinnati and all of those if we want to make the playoffs, because otherwise it is not happening.
And think back to some of these games throughout the first half of the season where we've left points on the table that we really should have had.
Yeah.
Just working backwards, we should have come in and won that game last night against New England. All of the game stats point in our favor. Possession.
Yeah.
We outshot them like 26-8. We controlled that game with everything except finishing.
But guess what's the stat that really counts the most in soccer?
Goal scored.
Goals.
It helps to have those.
You can dominate the game, but at the end, it's whether you put them in at your end and whether you keep them out when you're defending. Because I'm here to tell you, I was very disappointed. I watched the Champions League final Saturday. I was really pulling for Borussia Dortmund. They dominated the game for like an hour against Real Madrid. Didn't put the ball in the goal.
Yeah.
And everybody does this against Real Madrid. And everybody loses against Real Madrid because Real Madrid makes you think that you're dominating, You're not dominating. You're playing right into their
Yeah.
hands. They win the game at the end. They know it's 90 minutes. This is what we're not doing. You can bring all the stats you want to, but at the end of it, it's all about finishing and keeping them out. And really, that's where we're failing.
Yeah, I don't think New England is being that savvy and having us play into their hand. We just weren't getting the job done.
Yeah.
So we should have won the New England game. We should have won that game against Montreal where we tied them up in their stadium. They're a lesser team than us. We should have beaten Atlanta at home. We should have beaten San Jose at home. We had a 2-2 draw versus Columbus at home that we should have won.
Yeah.
If you start to tally up these points that we should have had because we probably were the better team, we'd probably be 4th or 5th in the league right now. It would be that much of a difference. Even with all of the mediocre play, we do sit in 9th place. We're inside the playoff picture right now at the moment. We are 5 points out of 6th place. So if we could go on a streak, if we could get some help from some others, I look ahead of us. Toronto, I feel like, is fool's gold. We've played them before, and they, I think, are not really the team that is ranked where they are, but they've had some success so far this season, but I don't think they're as good as their record is indicating. We could certainly leapfrog some of these teams and get into a more secure playoff position if we could just get our act together.
Yeah, you got to start squinting, though, huh?
Yeah.
You got squinting to see that playoff spot.
It's not as easy. What we don't want to do is roll into the playoffs in 9th place and have to play Miami to start out with or Cincinnati. I mean, that is not where you want to be. Well, let's move on, guys. Let's get a little bit spicy and do the Nashville hot chicken takes. Okay, this is your opportunity, guys, to give me a really hot take. Let's see how spicy you can get. Nashville is known for their spicy chicken. We're also known for our spicy hot takes. So, John, start us off. What's your hot take this week?
All right, my hot take this week. Usually I throw all kinds of vitriol against other people in this hot take. I'm not afraid to throw anybody under the bus. But, I've got to kind of include myself in this hot take. I've got to do a little self-criticism. And I've got a quote for y'all. It is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of high maturity to rise to the level of self-criticism. Guess who said that?
Stalin.
Nope.
I don't know. Evan, who do you think said that?
John's mother-in-law.
That'd be amazing. That was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, sure.
So I'm going to say, if y'all have a beef with my hot take, y'all got a beef with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Y'all got to deal with that.
Okay.
All right. So here's my hot take. There should be blackouts for MLS games.
I don't like this at all. I don't like where you're going.
Whoa!
I know why you're doing this.
Yeah, you know what I'm doing. Okay, so ever since Apple TV took control at the start of the 2023 season of MLS, there have been no blackouts for home games, like showing the home games on TV. If you're sitting at home, you can watch the game no matter what's happening. I think that this may be causing some laziness in fans that are not coming to the game. And the reason why I think this, because it happened to me last night. I was home about 6:30. I could have made it down to Nashville, walked in the stadium right around kickoff time, but I'd had a long day. I was like, I'm going to sit at home, crack open a beer, and watch the game on Apple TV because I could. If there were blackouts, I couldn't have done that, and I probably would have gotten in the car. I probably would have gone down there. And I bet that there are a lot of people that are sitting on their ass, even though they have season tickets and not coming to games. And this is killing the atmosphere at Geodis Park. And I don't know about other MLS stadiums because I don't watch all their games. I don't care. I have other things to do in my life. But isn't the atmosphere, it's not what it used to be, isn't it?
No, you're right. I can't argue.
Last night was probably near the worst that it's been, but the play on the field isn't helping.
It's not helping.
I think if the team was playing better, I don't think that this would be so much of an issue, but we've got to have a fan base that hangs in there through the good and the bad times.
Exactly. And if I can't do it, I can't blame other people for doing it as well, because I've been here since the get-go, and it's just too easy. I was like, fuck it. I'm not going to drive through all this traffic. There might be a little rain. I'm going to sit at home. But no, fuck me. I was in the wrong. And if Apple TV didn't let me watch the games, I would have driven down to Nashville. I would have been there screaming my head off.
Yeah, weak tits is what we call that.
That's right.
Yeah, I definitely blame you and put part of the onus of the loss on you not being there last night.
It's all on me. I will take it.
It's a good point. It's a hot take. It's pretty spicy.
Thought so.
And of course, if you're a season ticket holder, you get that Apple season pass for free. So it's just even more motivation to hang out and watch the game at home. I wonder if MLS thought it through to that level when they were striking that deal with Apple.
Oh, oh, hell no. Apple was like, here is an amount of money. And the 29 people or so, whatever, that own teams in MLS were like, I'll take that money. Didn't read the fine print.
That's a good one. Okay, I got to get some milk or something. Evan, while I'm cooling off, why don't you let us know what your hot take is?
Oh, no. So you're already cooling off. I don't stand much of a chance.
I'm sweating a little bit. My eyes are watering.
Oh. Well, just imagine I've just dumped out about a half a bottle of crushed red pepper flakes on this take, okay? So I think we need to bench our second highest player, slumping Sam Surridge. You may remember about, 6 weeks or so ago, I said the same for Tyler Boyd. I said he was playing very poorly. We needed to sit him on the bench until he got pissed off enough to get back out on the field and do the job that he's been paid for. And for once in my record of predictions here, I got one right. He's been playing so much better lately. Him being on the bench for the Cincinnati match and us having played so well makes it pretty obvious. He needs to ride the pine for a while until he gets that fire back, and then we'll see. So anyway, Ryan, I know I can already hear what you're going to say. You're going to go ahead and give this one to John because he guilt-tripped you. But that's my hot take.
Not me. I'm showing up to games. It's a hot take as well. All respect to you for that one. I think that one's a little bit more obvious in that you're not the only one saying this. Sam Surridge is a better striker than Teal Bunbury. Point blank, that's absolutely true. But I am not so certain that Sam Surridge has better chemistry with Hany Mukhtar than Teal Bunbury does. And to me, it's a chemistry issue, and I don't know what they need to do to work it out. Would more playing time together be the solution? Would getting benched be the solution? I'm not quite sure, but there's a disconnect between Surridge, and not just with Mukhtar. I feel like there's a disconnect between Surridge and Schaffelberg and Boyd and just anybody else that's playing up high on the offense. I feel like they're not putting the ball where Surridge wants it, or he's not positioning himself where they expect him to be. There is a disconnect there. I'm hoping that whenever we name a new coach, that's number one priority to start addressing and figuring out. But you're right on target that there's an issue here. It's a revolving around Sam Surridge. Whether he's doing something wrong or it's just a communication issue or whatever, I'm not sure. But the issue is around him, and it needs to be fixed. It's very spicy. It's hard to pick. I am going to pick John as the spicier, but it's a close call. Close call. I'm not going to do a hot take, but I was prepared to say Ruma Manthali just needs to be named permanent head coach. After the Cincinnati game, I was going to say, we just stop our coaching search now. We're good. It was a ballsy move, I thought, to put Teal Bunbury in starting a striker and not bring Sam off the bench the entire game. I thought that was incredible.
Yeah.
And it worked to perfection. But after Saturday's game, I'm not ready to stand behind that hot take at all. And I do think we need a professional head coach in there sooner rather than later.
After last night's game, I can't help but wonder if a lot of Wednesday was kind of minute restrictions with 3 games in a week, or if that was his choice. I've heard nothing but good things from everybody that's talked to Roomba. He's an impressive guy, apparently. But yeah, I'm ready for a new take.
An experienced head coach, I think. All right, guys, let's move on and do a little bit of Soccer 101. So we probably touched on this a little bit just now, but I'd like to dig in a little bit deeper and get your guys' thoughts on what we saw in these two games. Very different approaches, very different results. What were the tactical differences in each game that led to these different results? Obviously, we were doing something very right in the Cincinnati game. We did some things in the New England game that were also working pretty well, except for the part where we didn't score goals. So I'd love to just hear your takes, what you saw on the field that might have been different, how people were playing, how they were positioned, that sort of thing. So Evan, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I do. So going into the Cincinnati match, I'd been critical of Sam coming back so far and not staying up the pitch. So when I saw that Teal was starting that match, I was particularly watching that. And Teal certainly stayed up higher, but I saw him come back a little bit, and I thought, okay, well, I see him doing kind of the same thing, but obviously with a much different result than recent games. So then last night, I did the same thing. When I saw Sam starting, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch, and I'm going to see just how different that approach was. And yeah, he came back a little bit more, but he really actually played a very similar game to Teal. Sam did a pretty good job of winning headers, holding the ball up. So that wasn't as significant as I thought it was going to be. So that left me to conclude that, and obviously there was a little bit of a difference in the personnel between the two games, but not a huge difference. Unless I'm mistaken, it was primarily a 4-4-2 throughout both matches. So again, left to conclude that the key difference was us playing more of a counterattacking style Wednesday night against Cincinnati versus much more on the front foot and trying to break down a low block against the Revs. And we are terrible at that. We cannot break down a low block. Not this season anyway. I don't know if you guys remember, but we had so many shots, especially towards the end where we were almost like desperately shooting. But how many shots did we just like a guy took a touch and just almost with his back to goal or side to goal and just blasted one straight into a defender's legs right in front of him? I mean, we are so poor at trying to break down a low block. But then against Cincinnati, where we had less possession, I think we had like 41% possession in that match, doing more counterattacking. And this is what we are built for. This is what we're best at. And counterattacking teams can be very successful. I mean, we know Philadelphia has been successful in this league for quite some time. Guys, Real Madrid is known as a counterattacking team, like you discussed a few minutes ago, John. And what did they just do the other day? They won the Champions League final. So it can be done. We can play to the strength, even at home. The essence of the counterattacking style is space. Right? We don't pass the ball well enough to play on the front foot, the Barcelona style, tiki-taki. We need that space to utilize our strengths, speed, cutting runs by Hany, and good penetrating balls by Godoy, Yearwood. Those are our strengths. We need the space in order to pull those things off. And I'm thinking, even when we're playing at home, even if we're playing an inferior opponent, let's go ahead and play that Real Madrid style and hit them on the break.
Interesting. Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. John, what are your thoughts on the differences between these two games? What tactically you saw that stood out to you? Why one was better than the other?
Similar. So kind of the key to the counter-attacking style for me is high pressure from the midfield. And what we had Wednesday was Drew Yearwood hustling his ass off. Yearwood was constantly in Cincinnati's half, just right on a midfielder that was kind of receiving the ball with his back to goal for Cincinnati. Yearwood, 3 or 4 times that I can remember, possibly more, was just right on a dude making a turnover happen. It happened on the second goal that we scored. Yearwood stepped in, made an interception, got it to Mukhtar, and played to Schaffelberg for the goal. And I did see any of that from Davis and Godoy Saturday. They play off, and you've got to force those turnovers. If you can't pass the ball through midfield, you have to make turnovers high up the pitch be your pass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's brilliant.
We can't play, like you said, tiki-taka. We can't play Xavi and Iniesta, play the ball around. We have to win the ball in their half, make one pass, and make a chance happen. And Yearwood was doing an amazing job of that Wednesday, and I have no idea why he wasn't starting again. I thought he was the key to the game Wednesday.
Yeah.
Sean Davis is a great guy. For the amount we're paying him, we have got to do better. I don't see what he brings to the team. He doesn't bring the high pressure. He plays too far off when he's trying to defend. He doesn't make these through balls.
Yeah.
He frustrates the hell out of me.
Yeah. And even Moyle. I mean, Moyle is a fantastic presser, high presser.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I don't know. He can't do it on his own.
So you both are hitting on several really interesting and important points. Here's a comparison and just some actual statistics around this. So your average position on the field in the Cincinnati game, Yearwood was our fourth highest player. He played the fourth highest behind Mukhtar Surridge, and Mukhtar was the highest. Yeah, and Schaffelberg was second, and then Surridge. And then Yearwood was right almost in line with him in terms of their average position on the field, all across midfield. So
you probably mean Bunbury for the Wednesday game.
That's right. Bunbury, Mukhtar, Schaffelberg, and then Yearwood was fourth. In the New England game, Sean Davis was our fourth highest player as well. But
I didn't see it.
There's a major difference. All right. Mukhtar played at our fifth highest level. And in the Cincinnati game, he played highest. So the positioning of Mukhtar is really where this shifts. And then I think Davis being so high, his tendency is to pass back, is to be conservative with passing. Yearwood's tendency is to pass forward. And I think that's where we see the major difference. They were both positioned about the same place in their average positioning in the game, but their style of play is such that Davis was a negative and he was one of the lower XT in the game. And then in the Cincinnati game, Yearwood, he was middle of the pack in terms of the XT rating. Mukhtar's positioning and his ability to get space is what this is all about. All right. The way that these midfielders are playing, the way that Surridge plays versus Bunbury, it's all about creating space for Hany Mukhtar. We saw Wednesday night when Mukhtar has space. Look what he was able to create. Look at that goal that Schaffelberg had. Mukhtar drew 4 different defenders coming at him. He was going straight down the middle of the field. There was none of this going down the wings, crossing over in a prayer. He was going straight down the middle of the field, drawing defenders, shaking them off, and then passing it to the open guy, facilitating the goal. Mukhtar needs to be playing the highest. He needs to be given space. We've got to create space with Surridge, with Schaffelberg, with Boyd, and then with that next level of midfielders like Yearwood. Yearwood does a much better job of this than Davis or Godoy does. So I think we're getting to something here. Don't put us in charge. We'll actually fix this thing. This is what the numbers tell me. In fact, in the Cincinnati game, another thing that's really interesting is that we played pretty evenly in terms of the disbursement of our team to the back half or the front half of the field. So about half of our players averaged in the forward half and about half of our players averaged being in the back half. In the New England game, all but 3 of our players averaged being in the forward half. I think we may have played too far up. That second goal that they scored, they flipped the field on us quick. We had everybody up there. Zimmerman got caught playing high. They beat him back and they scored the goal. I think we need to leave maybe one more defender trailing. We can't play that aggressive or that's going to bite us, I think. And it did against New England. So just a couple of things there that I think tactically were different. And you guys are right on in terms of the spacing of the midfielders, the spacing of where Surridge is versus Bunbury. All of that is a piece of this. But the key is putting Mukhtar into places where he can make things happen, in my opinion. Well done, guys. That's Soccer 101. Woo! Well, all right. Let's get into a really quick weekend preview. This is going to be easy. It's time for the MLS summer break, as only a few teams will play next weekend, and Nashville will have a couple of weeks until their next game to regroup and reassess their current position. It also gives the club time to potentially announce a new head coach and begin to implement any changes that such a decision might bring. It's the halfway point of the season, and despite a disappointing and tumultuous first half of the season that included the firing of longtime coach Gary Smith, Nashville still sits on the edge of playoff contention in 9th place and well within striking distance of several clubs ahead of them in the standings. Their record is a middling 4 wins, 5 losses, and 7 draws with a goal differential of -2. Nashville SC had better enjoy their week off because when they return, they will have a gauntlet to face in the remaining weeks of June. While the month of May featured numerous games versus lower tier teams, the month of June is just the opposite. Starting on June 15th, Nashville will play 4 games in the next 14 days against 4 of the top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference over that span. They'll first travel to face the Red Bulls in New York and then Toronto on the road. And then they'll host New York City FC and MLS Supporter Shield favorite Inter Miami at Geodis Park. It's going to be a huge test for this team to see if they have the endurance and the willpower to hang in this crowded playoff race. So there you have it, guys. June's going to be tough. We're playing 4 of the top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference. It's going to be a major step up in terms of the level of competition, what we've been facing. But as we were saying earlier, our team tends to play up to the competition. Possibly by that time that we play our next game, we'll have a new head coach. And hopefully we will have had a week or 2 to start preparing and implementing some of that coach's style and point of view. So do you guys have any predictions? We don't have a game next week, so we won't predict the weekly outcome, but I'd love to know what you think is going to happen over the second half of this season. We've got 18 games to go. We've got Leagues Cup as well that we're going to participate in. Do you have any predictions about what might happen? John?
Yeah, I'm usually trying to be optimistic, but I'm not.
Hey, call them like you see them.
This June stretch is going to be rough as hell because not only are we playing good teams, we're probably going to be missing 3 players for all those games. Anibal Godoy with Panama, Jacob Schaufelberg with Canada, and Shaq Moore with the United States. There's a good chance all 3 of those players are going to be at Copa America. Now, a lot of MLS teams are going to be missing players at Copa America. That Miami game, Messi is going to be not there. Sorry to disappoint anybody that's banking on selling those tickets. He ain't going to be there. He's not going to be in Nashville on June 29th. But it's going to be really hard. Our depth is not great. We don't have a backup right back at all. I guess Josh Bauer kind of is, or Alex Milwil maybe. My optimism is going to be based entirely on who we hire as a head coach. And I'm hoping that we are doing another podcast this week. Like an emergency podcast, because under current circumstances, I do not see these games going all that well for us.
So that's your prediction?
That's my prediction, is that by the end of June, currently we'll be at 12th or so.
And what do you think is going to happen over the course of the rest of the season? How are we going to finish up?
That's about where I expect it. But all this could change if we get some exciting coach. I don't know who we're getting, man. I'm dying to know who people are thinking we're going to get. It's going to have to be somebody very special, though, to get us into the playoffs, I feel.
They're going to be putting on a Coach of the Year type performance, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Evan, have you got any predictions about what we might see the rest of the season?
I do. So you may remember that last week I predicted that we would lose to Cincinnati and beat New England. So apparently the team always does the opposite of what I predict. So I'm going to predict that we're going to lose every game from here on out, finish in last place. And let's see if I can turn this thing around for us, okay? So that's my prediction. We're going to lose every game, probably by like 10 goals.
Putting the reverse jinx on us, I see.
Exactly.
You obviously have kids and use reverse psychology all the time.
For sure. Yeah. It's my only parenting tactic.
Well, I'm going to make you feel a little bit better. You're not the only one to have predictions that maybe go awry. I think all of us can speak to the fact that we're not very good at this, at looking ahead. I think that early in the season, I predicted Jacob Schaufelberg was going to be our leading scorer and our MVP, and he's nothing close to that.
He got 1 goal.
He did score this past week, but otherwise it's been, I don't know, a forgettable past couple of months for him. And there have been several that I've missed on, so don't feel bad. John, you haven't done so well either, right?
Oh, yeah. I fucked it all up, man. I have no idea what I'm doing.
And I was actually thinking about this before the podcast earlier today. It's just about how terrible we are at making predictions and actually how hard it is to do it and do it well. We're just three guys who picked up some microphones to decide to do a podcast. There's nothing about our experience or our professions that should qualify us to make these predictions whatsoever. So I'm telling the audience now, take them with a grain of salt. But it did make me start to think about what are some of the great predictions that have been made that have turned out to be true, or just what are some just really impressive predictions? Do you guys have any thoughts about what are some really wild or impressive predictions that you recall people making that have come true or not? Or I don't know. I mean, what do you think about this whole topic, John?
Dude, how many times has The Simpsons predicted the future?
Absolutely. Yes.
A lot of times. First of all, they predicted a Trump presidency, I think back in 2000.
That's probably the biggest one of all. Yeah.
That's the one everybody knows about.
Yeah.
But there's so many other times where they predicted the future. It is insane.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you the most impressive one.
Mm-hmm.
If you had bet money on this happening in real life, you'd be a millionaire. All right. In 1996, The Simpsons had an episode called Homer Palooza, where it was like the music festival Lollapalooza. And that episode is fantastic. They have Smashing Pumpkins is on there. Sonic Youth is on there.
Yep.
Peter Frampton is on there, of all people.
I remember this episode well. It's excellent. It's a great episode. Go ahead.
But the weirdest one by far is Cypress Hill. The amazing rap group is on there. And in the episode, Cypress Hill performed with the London Symphony Orchestra. And the joke on the on the episode was, dude, we hired them after we got a little high, after possibly being high. When that's all that Cypress Hill is known for, is they got high all the time. But guess what? 28 years later, on July 10th this year, Cypress Hill is going to perform with the London Symphony Orchestra in real life. The Simpsons predicted this, and it made it happen. I mean, what are the chances? You could have gotten it 28 years ago that this was going to happen.
It's amazing. They've done it so many times, it becomes a little bit questionable. You have to be like, is there something here? My favorite one that they've done was in 1998 in season 10, episode 2. The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace. Homer is an inventor, and he's shown writing an equation on the chalkboard. Later, many years later, that an equation that closely resembles that is developed by physicists to predict the mass of the Higgs boson particle, the God particle.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What? You are kidding me.
He wrote a formula on the chalkboard that is really close to that actual, God particle formula.
Oh my God. It's a cartoon, dude. How did they do this shit?
Yeah. Yeah, it's an incredible prediction. So that's one of my favorites. There's so many, though. In 1995, there's an episode where Lisa, I guess they're looking into the future, and it shows Lisa making a phone call with a watch. And also they're doing FaceTime type of communication. Of course, that was also something that was kind of done on the Jetsons. I don't know if I would totally give it to them on that. They predicted 9/11 in 1997.
Tell me more.
They showed a magazine cover that had the number 9 next to the Twin Towers, which were 11. So it was like 911, but it was the Twin Towers were the 11 in it. And it was on a magazine. It was on a magazine cover.
Dude, no.
4 years before that happened.
What?
In 1998, they had an episode where there's a sign that predicts that 20th Century Fox was a division of Walt Disney Company. And that actually came to pass in 2019, 20 years later. It just goes on and on and on. There's so many events like this that they have nailed. I don't understand how they're able to do it. I don't know if it's because they've just had so many episodes that you've got to get them right eventually.
eventually something, everything that can be has already happened in the Simpsons episode. Yeah.
Wow.
That's right. Evan, what do you think? Do you have any crazy predictions from history that really strike you as particularly impressive?
Well, you know what? I'm so impressed with this God particle prediction by the Simpsons that I'm going to make my own prediction.
Ooh.
Okay, sure. Go for it.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
My prediction is that the next director of the Hayden Planetarium at the Rose Center for Earth and Space in New York City, the person who will follow the great Neil deGrasse Tyson will be none other than Homer Simpson.
Why not? There's probably been an episode like that already.
Yeah, probably so.
Probably one of the last 30 years when nobody's been watching the show anyway.
In 2010, Milhouse predicted that MIT professor Bengt Holmstrom would win the Nobel Prize, and he did in 2016. I'm not joking.
Oh
I'm not lying.
gosh. Wow.
It just goes on and on and on. There's a list a mile long like this. Here's to you, Simpsons. You guys do it right.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, I'm running out of beer, so I guess it's about time for us to wrap this up. I really enjoyed talking with you tonight. John, you want to let everybody know how to get in touch with us and let them in on your special announcement?
Absolutely. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Electric Gold NSC. But here is the important thing that I alluded to earlier in the episode. We are running a contest right now, our first ever contest. This contest, we have all season long been alluding to the fact that we think we need new songs or chants to do in the supporter section or the stadium in general. We want you to come up with a new song or chant to do it in the stadium. And how you can do that, if you go to our Instagram, you will see a post and follow the rules of the post. You can come up with any new song or chant that you feel like. You can post it in the comments of the Instagram. You can send a direct message to us. We will see this. But here's the coolest thing that we have got for you. If you come up with the best one, the best song or chant, you can win a gift certificate to Jackalope Brewery.
Wow.
Basically, every single week, one of us has been drinking a beer from Jackalope Brewery because they're just that fucking good. They always come up with a great beer, and they are providing a prize for us in this contest. So please, please, please use your creative minds, Music City. Give us the best you've got. I've got a few already, and we'll keep this going until whenever the next episode we record is. We want new things to sing in the stadium, and we know that you can do it because you are the Music City. We know there's creative songwriters out there.
Well, terrific. That's exciting, and I can't wait to see what submissions that people put through. We had some great songs last week that you guys came up with, and I'm hoping that we'll get some great submissions from our listeners. It would be fantastic if we could provide those to the supporters groups and they would choose to actually use them, but I can't guarantee that at all.
We'll try.
Yeah, we'll try. So look us up on Instagram, submit your songs. Don't forget you can go to Spotify and see our Spotify playlist where we list all of the songs and some other pop culture pieces that we mentioned on the podcast. It's an incredible playlist, just absolute bangers all the way through. There's not a miss in the whole bunch.
Dude, I was listening to the thing earlier today. I had a sequence. This is true. This sequence went from Bluey to Cannibal Corpse to Biz Marquee to Neil Young. 4 songs in a row.
Good grief.
All bangers, all amazing. It's the best party playlist that anyone's ever come up with.
It's fantastic. So that's our gift to you, the listeners. Enjoy. And of course, we appreciate you tuning in each week. We're probably going to take the week off next week since there's no game. But if there is a coaching announcement, who knows? We might step in and do an emergency podcast. We'll see. But otherwise, we'll catch you guys in 2 weeks after the next game against Red Bulls of New York. In the meantime, hang in there. Thanks everyone for listening. And don't forget, keep saying it, keep cheering them on. Come on, you boys and gold.
Come on, you boys and gold.
Come on, you boys and gold.
Again, Nashville's defense did not pressure well. And forward Esmir Bajratarevic. Oh, God. I mean, this one's hard.
Gesundheit.